All right, welcome everyone to episode 33 of APS Radio. I'm joined today by FDNY Safety Chief Frank Leeb. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim. Happy to be here with my good friend. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you back. It's been a while since we recorded anything together.
It is, but luckily it hasn't been a while since we've seen each other and spoke. So that's a good
No, that's been like a week or week and a half. But
thing.
and you were, when I saw you, you were peddling this book of yours, and this in my very best James Lipton, The Cornerstone of Leadership, right there. And all the younger viewers are like, who's James Lipton?
Yeah.
And I would say to that, just look up Will Ferrell's impression of James Lipton on SNL. Good stuff.
Yes,
But
sir.
you're an author.
I'm an author. Yeah, and not only am I an author, Jim, but I've become a best-selling author in several categories on Amazon, which is um, just incredibly humbling that people are buying the book and that that they can relate to it and that they're taking some of the lessons from it and hopefully going to do something with them, which is a good thing.
Oh, I've read it. I just finished it a few days ago. It was a great read, a quick read. Big words, which was not the word for big, but the big font, which helped with my eyes. I appreciate.
Yeah. So the idea was it's not quite large print, but it's bigger than a lot of books have, and I want it to be easy to read. And it only to change the font that little bit bigger added 6 pages. So it's not like it was a big deal. It's not like it increased the cost of the book all that much. And we wanted it to be, and I say we, I mean my publisher, which happens to be my son. I wanted it to be a 4 hour, in the range of 4 hours to read it. So I've been hearing mostly from 4 to 5 hours for people to read it cover to cover. And every single thing that we looked at, whether it's the size of the book, 6x9, the font size, the color, the weight of the paper, everything that we did was to make it, we looked up what's most popular, what people like, to make it where it's an easy read.
It is, and it's a good read. I know my first question to you when I saw you is just, when in the world did you find the time to even sit down and compose this? Because you are a busy man.
Well, so it's all about time management. What do you do in your downtime? What do you do when you're driving? What do you do when you're on a flight, on an airplane? And my ability to write got significantly better after I went to the Naval Postgraduate School and was really exposed to one of my first instructors, Chris Bellavita. And since then, I could write an article on a flight on my phone and have it, and then I'll email it to myself, and then it'll be 95% done, do a little bit editing, add some photos, and it's good to go. I write so often now that I can utilize the time, and you do it in chunks, right? You don't sit down and say, I'm going to write a book. You write little pieces and things. I joke around, brilliance comes 5 minutes at a time. You'll come up with a brilliant thought, and if you don't write it down immediately, it's gone. You lose it. 5 minutes later, you're like, boy, that would have been a good line for an article or a book, but I didn't write it down. But that's really it. It's just time management, and I've become pretty good at managing my time. And I do like to be busy, so that helps too.
What made you decide to actually sit down? I mean, because I know, like you said, you've written plenty of articles, but writing a book, that's a whole nother scale. When did you decide that you wanted to take that on, and what was that whole process like?
Oh, you're right. It is a whole nother scale. And so basically, Peter Matthews, from Firehouse, he had asked me to do the keynote, and that was where the genesis of the book is basically from that keynote, right? So the outline of it was largely done, and I had so many people after I did that keynote that they were like, "You got to write a book based on the keynote," and it was a couple of people in particular. Sarah Jenke was really on me about writing a book even before the keynote. And afterwards, Chris Stewart, who recently retired from Phoenix, just over a year ago, that was the impetus where he was like, you got to look at the speech, Make Your Bed, which was the commencement address for, I think it was University of Texas. And then the book, then I read the book, and I was like, you know what, I can do this. And there's so many lessons in a relatively short book. I mean, the book Make Your Bed took me about 2 hours to read, but it was chock full of information. So I wanted to keep a book that was based on leadership, that was short, that was to the point, that could give you actionable intelligence that you can implement or do stuff with right away. And that was in the form of the chapter and then 5 takeaways for each chapter, that are after the chapter, and all of them are listed at the end. So, and then 2 bonus chapters for Mark Ferran and my buddy Jim Yearsley. So there's a total of 127 takeaways in the book, which I love books that give me some takeaways at the end of it.
It had lots of definite food for thought going through that, and it was, each chapter had your kind of like your pro tips, and I did like at the end how it all is combined together. Very good stuff. Um, you wrote this. It's obviously about the FDNY. It's obviously your experience, but also you talk about your volunteer experience and just the way you even wrote this. It's not necessarily, I mean, it's a fire service book, but it's much more beyond that too, which I really enjoyed. Like there's something that anybody could take away from this stuff.
And that was the intent, was to make it where, leadership transcends the fire service. But I'm all in on the fire service. I got 31 years in the FDNY. I got 40 years in my volunteer department. My experiences are fire related, just like McRaven's experiences are military related. But the takeaways are not just for the military. These are not just for the fire service. These are all those soft skills. I mean, think about it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Everybody's had a boss where you said, boy, they really know what they're doing, but their delivery sucks. They don't know how to connect with people. They don't have good bedside manners, right? Whatever it is. And that's really what this book concentrates on. This book isn't going to teach you how to force a door, stretch a hose line. There's plenty of good books out there on those things. But this is all those other things, kind of the human touch, told with fire stories and such, because that's what I know. Anytime I got too technical, anytime I had somebody review it, they were like, yeah, this, it's too technical. You shouldn't be teaching how to do whatever, so I wound up taking them out. And in a couple of cases, 3 of the chapters that I thought were done, we wound up taking out. And one of them got replaced. The other 2 never did. And the book is stronger, I think, because of it.
Yeah. The other thing I like too about this is, I mean, it's your story. It's young Frank starting and just being naive as can be, taking on the world, and just your growth throughout your career, and just the stories. I mean, how things were handled way back then, and then how they're handled now, and you're I think a big part of that change. Being in the position you're at, but it was interesting because there's a lot of parallels to what I saw too growing up in the fire service, and how a lot of the stuff early on was just ignored, don't talk about it, move on, to where we are now, to where we do talk about it and we do work through stuff.
And we need to talk about it and work through it. And so for me, my volunteer fire service experience was so much of the formative building blocks of, of the foundation, right, that I would become. And for some people, that's side jobs, or that's the Boy Scouts, or that's whatever else, right? So everybody, or the Girl Scouts, right? So everybody can relate to something in their life that, yeah, that's what something gave you your foundation, right? And hopefully you had a strong foundation. I was blessed. I worked in the volunteer fire service with so many hardworking people, and we had such great leadership from so many people. And I call out a couple of them in the book, but there were many that I had before those leaders and after those leaders, and even today in my volunteer fire service. And then when I got into the career fire service, again, I was blessed to work with just some legendary people that, when you talk about leadership and just the building blocks of continuing that education, and really it starts off with a young, naive Frank that thought he knew it all, and then you realize that you don't know it all. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and that hopefully will keep you humble and keep you with a beginner's mindset, that you could continue a lifelong journey of learning and being better.
Very well said. And another part that I enjoyed is you really, I mean, you do a great job of talking about your mentors, the people that shaped you and helped you throughout your career. And I guess my question is, at what point did you realize that you were mentoring others now, that the script was actually flipped?
Well, that's a great question because I still have people mentoring me, right? And they are so valuable, and they're not always within my organization, right? There's a lot in my organization, but there's others. I mean, even even your family, right? They are mentors to you. But there's so much. But I think um, I don't know. I think I was mentoring people without knowing it for even as a firefighter, but I didn't realize it until my influence started to grow and people would tell me that, and both inside and outside my organization. Because what's one of the things that's been most humbling, Jim, about the release of the book, and now as I've gone now to a couple of places where I've been signing books and speaking, and the amount of people that have told me that I didn't know, people that I don't know, that they come up to me and I'm signing their book, and they tell me that you've been a mentor of mine for a long time, and it really hits you and humbles you that what you're doing is making a difference inside your organization, outside your organization. Because I say it all the time, and I mean it. It's we're literally all in this together, and if we could help people be better leaders, better people, better bosses, whatever it is, and that could, again, inside and outside the fire service, because I've had good bosses and bad bosses outside of the fire service in some of my early jobs as well. And again, learn something from everybody. Sometimes it's what not to do, but the fact that I can be a mentor outside of my organization with people I don't know, I just think that is a heavy responsibility and one that I cherish and I accept.
It is. I mean, obviously, just the power of the FDNY, and being the big brother to everybody, and everybody kind of looking up to you as an organization for guidance. I mean, that's tremendous. But what I love about you, and I've always loved about you, is it's FDNY, but it's also the entire fire service. And you share your knowledge, your expertise, your passion with everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're East Farmingdale, volunteer department, or Beaver Creek, or Dayton, or anywhere else. Like, it's you never have acted better than. And I think that's actually unique. I don't think I'm used to that. And I don't think the rest of the fire service is used to that. Like, that you're that approachable and you care.
Well, because we're all in this together. Nobody's better than someone else. We're all just trying to do the job and do it to the best we can, and if we could help and pass it along. The FDNY is a big platform, right? Obviously, and we have a lot of people that go out and speak. And I always tell them, be worthy, right? Be worthy of those four letters on the back of your coat, those FDNY, because they mean so much more than just what they mean to those you work with, and obviously those that we're sworn to protect. The visitors and residents of New York City. But it means so much, the influence that we have on not only the American fire service, but the international fire service, the fire service as a whole community. And we're a part of that community. Nothing more, nothing less. We're a part of that community, and we should be contributing to that. And I take that responsibility seriously. And it's, again, one of the takeaways in the book is simply be worthy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think another way of describing this book is simply, it's almost just, it's a story about respect. It's a story about trusting your people, enabling your people, treating them how you would want to be treated. Really, the golden rule, just being a good person. That is, I know that's not written that way, but that was kind of my takeaway from this, is just, treat other people how you want to be treated. Help them out and let them go. And they're gonna take that and run with it and do it to the best of their ability.
Shouldn't we all treat people the way we want to be treated? I mean, it's be nice. As an officer, I don't yell at my firefighters. I don't want anybody yelling at me. I don't. if someone does something that they shouldn't be doing and I need to talk to them about it, and I have to discipline them, I do that in private. I praise them in public. I celebrate my people. I celebrate all of the people that are doing amazing stuff for my organization and for other organizations. Celebrate your champions. I mean, the power of a thank you means so much to so many people, and we just don't use those simple words all that often. I love what I do. I love the fire service. I love my firefighters, and it's okay to show that, right? I mean, I think you know, they get it, right? That I'm there for them at any time.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And I think that book explains that. And I know at the end of the book, you really talk about not necessarily your legacy, but just everybody's legacy and leaving their department better than it was when they got on there, and leaving themselves better than they were when they got there.
Because that's what we always say, right? Leave the organization better than you found it. And that chapter, the concluding chapter talks about micromanaging as well. And I don't micromanage my people. If I have high achieving people, I give them the assignment. I tell them what I want done. I give them enough rules to where they understand my leader's intent. But then that's it. I'm not looking to constrain them into a box. I want you to, the greatest resource we have is a well-trained, thinking, physically fit firefighter. So if I want them to think, well, I got to give them room to grow and do that. And when you do that to the right people in your organization, they never let you down. My high achieving firefighters never let me down. Whether I want them to come up with an out-of-box solution, or I want them to build a Proby Pavilion at the Fire Academy, which the Proby Pavilion, right, is a beautiful structure. And I basically just told them the size and the dimensions and what I wanted it to be. It's funny because they would come up to me with all these different ideas, and I'd be like, "Is that what you want to do?" And they would say, "I think it'll be best for the project." Then do it. I appreciated that they ran it by me, but I wasn't looking to stifle them or their creativity, because that's how you get a bunch of people who don't want to do anything for you or the organization, and nobody wins when that's the case, right? So we create these partnerships. Everybody's got skin in the game. Everybody has ownership, and everybody wins when we do that.
Absolutely. Very nicely said. And I know I've heard that story from you before. It was actually cool because having the being able to have seen you speak on several times, a lot of those stories were actually being recounted to me. So I appreciate that, and it just even made them, I think, that much better for me. Actually, because I've seen pictures and everything else from your slides before. Where I gotta ask, where can everybody find this book? Where's, I know you're on socials, and Amazon, everything else, but if somebody wanted to get this book, how do they go about getting it?
Yeah, so right now it's currently available on Amazon. That's the easiest place. That's the easiest place to get it. Or I mean, at any of the places that I'm going, I'm going to be speaking at a bunch of different places, and most of the places I'm going, actually, all of them have told me to bring some books along as well. But if you buy it on Amazon and you go to a conference that I'm speaking at, and you want to tell me your thoughts about it, you want to come up and say hello, you want me to sign it, I mean, certainly by all means do that. Like I said, I'm humbled that people are spending their hard-earned money, Jim, on my book, and it's got a couple of really good reviews. People have been on Facebook, people have been posting and posting pictures of them with their book, and tagging cornerstones of leadership. One firefighter whose child's he just had a recent child, and child's going to be in hospital for a while, and he's reading it at the hospital. He sent the picture of him, near his child, and just stuff like that. I signed a book to someone who was going to give it to a chief he's going to promote when he gets home, and he wants to give him that as a book. I signed a copy for the parents of somebody who was killed in the line of duty. It's just been humbling, man. Our profession and beyond. And I can't reiterate how much we are all in this together, and whether it's the fire service or and beyond. And that, again, that's what the intent was: a soft skill book on leadership. If you want to learn how to stretch a hose line, like I said, find a different book. But for this book, and I was recently talking to a lawyer, and he told me like 80%. In fact, it was Kurt Verone. I saw him at Firehouse Expo, and he told me 80% of litigation involving fire service, and he said even outside, right? The fire service is the microcosm of society, revolves around all those soft skills. Because we have people that are fantastic at this at the skills, but then when they want to be a leader, it doesn't always transcend so well. And I think about the people I know that they are tactically. If I was trapped in a fire, that's who I want. But if I needed someone to negotiate, two people that are arguing and they're going to be the mediator, I probably wouldn't want them. That'd be like throwing gasoline on the fire. But that's what it's about. And you said it: be kind, do the right thing, treat people the way you want to be treated. And my stories are all fire stories, and that's in my career, I've had some crazy responses that I've gone to. I've been deployed a couple of times, to Katrina, to Harvey. So I have some unique stories, and it's all about my stories and the leadership lessons they provide.
Yes, and I love how, I mean, it does paint the picture of just throughout your career, lessons learned, the good, the bad, but just lessons learned that you can use later on. And having that, real life accountability of just some of the crazy stuff that you've seen. It is crazy, the stuff. I don't want to spoil anything. I want everybody to go buy the book themselves, but I mean, you've got experience, and I mean, it shows. It's been a heck of career for you.
It's been a wild ride. And there's so much in the book that I really don't even talk about, right? There's, so many stories, but I wanted to pick the ones that really were important leadership moments where you could look and say, like, this is a pretty good lesson that came out of this experience. And the stories, because of the experiences, like I said, were, you mentioned, some of the stories are pretty funny. Some of them are, a little sad, and some of them really, when I talk about my buddy Chris, is really exposing, his vulnerability there, right? And but I think, and when we talk about that, that chapter talks a little bit about mental health. One of the chapters you're referring to, and it's okay to not be okay. And luckily, we do things so much different and better today than we did, when you and I started in the fire service.
Yeah, I always, and you do a really good comparison of the job. I mean, for example, in the book you discuss the plane crash and how, it's from there back to just pretending like nothing happened and to get back to normal, and how that would never be that way in today's day of age. And then you kind of compare it to, was that fire where 17 people died,
Yeah.
and how, you had Frank and his unit out there, the behavioral health unit. And I mean, he really went above and beyond to make sure everybody was okay in a situation that was really not okay.
Yeah, and we are light years difference. That plane crash that I referenced was in October of 2001, right? Not that long after September 11th, and we were emotionally empty, but we didn't quite have the capacity to respond to that on making sure our people were okay, on that type of a scale. And where we are today is very different. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of my organization, how good we are that we could have a peer counselor in every single firehouse that needs it the same day as a major incident. And we need to account for so many different firehouses and EMS stations. And, that even somebody came up to me that day, the day the Twin Parks fire, and asked me how I was. And I got a follow-up phone call the next day. And rank didn't matter, right? So rank doesn't matter. So it's ultimately, right, if you're having difficulty, it doesn't matter if you're the chief of department, you're the probie, for me, I was the command chief that day. But the things we saw and the things my people were doing, my people are amazing, but we got to make sure that they stay amazing and they stay healthy. And that's what it's about, because, you don't want to lose 17 civilians that day. and we did a great job minimizing the loss of life. But I don't want to lose people to a lifelong of mental health anguish. And we could do better. And I think when it comes to some of the training on that, we need to preload them, before the incident, so they know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, there's a lot going on in that. I mean, Dina Ali, the battalion chief out of Raleigh, is writing a book that Penwell is going to be publishing, I believe, in time for FDIC next year. I mean, that's I wrote the forward for that. It's a fantastic book that will teach us some of that and why, how we could cope with it, why it's happening. I mean, it's just I learned a lot by reading it. Eventually, I had to tell her, because she's so smart. I'm like, Dina, you got to stop writing. It's I told her, I said, my book's a 4-hour read. You keep it. Firefighters like short into the short reads, but there's so much good information that it was impossible to make her book that short, which it's not. It'll be a pretty large book. It'll be a encyclopedia of information on the topic for sure.
I would expect nothing less from her.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
She is thorough.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that read as well. That'll be good.
Yeah, that will be for sure.
I told you earlier today, and I'll say it again here. If I really wish my chiefs had either read this or done a lot of things that is in this book, because if that was the case, I'd probably still be working. And I can't think of a better. That's probably the best compliment that I can give you, is that.
I appreciate that, and I've heard that a couple of times now, and it's incredibly humbling. I've had a couple of people that have read the book, and they said, I immediately ordered them for all of my officers, or I got one for my chief. But it's really for anybody if you're aspiring to be a leader that others follow and others believe in and others trust, competency, you have to have competency, right? So take that off the table a second, because if you're incompetent, then that's a whole nother story, right? So let's assume that your leader, like the leaders in the FDNY, our uniform leaders, if you're a lieutenant, if you're a captain, you have operational competence. But then how do we take that to the next step, where you're the leader that inspires others to be better, a leader that people want to work for, a leader that lets their people grow, that you mentor and foster them because they're the next leader. Smaller departments, you know why people leave small departments? Now you have to pay the members, right? So if you're paying them well, the only reason people leave is because they're not valued, they don't get training, or they have very poor leadership. Some people will leave to go to larger departments because they want to be in a larger department. Sometimes there's more opportunities, but the majority, when you ask people why did they leave their department, they'll tell you, my department didn't value me. And when in a day and age when we're having recruitment problems, that shouldn't be why people are leaving your department. And I think, and especially from hearing many of the early reviews of the book, is that that's one of the huge values of this book, is that it's in a very simple way. I outline ways, and not everything that's outlined is easy to implement or easy to change, but I put it in an easy way to at least give you the building blocks, the steps, maybe a roadmap on how you can get there.
I think the only thing you could have added is saying nobody cares about pizza parties.
Yeah, no such. And also,
you guys did great. Here's some pizza.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a pizza party. Well, so that's right. That's all. So after a fire, so as all of your viewers know, Jim is a tremendous and tireless advocate for reducing and preventing cancer in the fire service, and so am I. And I talk about when I do my presentations on cancer, and I get around to talking about in the volunteer fire service, after a fire, everybody stays on scene. It becomes a pizza party, and we order pizza and we hang out for another hour or two, which I don't mind hanging out for a while after that, right? You get to speak to everybody, especially if you have mutual aid companies there, people you haven't seen. But there we are eating pizza. I mean, the only thing worse would be, Kentucky Fried Chicken, because it's finger licking good. But I tell people, don't eat the crust, right? Because we don't want to ingest soot on a fire ground. There's a reason when there's a fire in a place that sells food, the Board of Health comes and they have to throw out all the food, because the Board of Health is trying to make it where the customers don't ingest soot. Yeah. Anyway, dare we digress a little bit there, Jim? But yeah, it's a pizza party.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Yes, I agree with you about the pizza party at the scene. I'm talking about the, hey, you guys did a good job. We're going to grill some burgers, or here's some pizza.
Oh yes, okay, yeah,
yes.
Which do it, but tell your people celebrate your champions, celebrate your people. Ask them right after action review. Stop by telling them what you could have did better.
Just thank them.
There's all these things, right? Have some humility.
Just showing them that you care. Show them that you care, and that you're. That's all. That's what matters. Anyway, the book. If you guys haven't already read it yet, what are you waiting for? Again, James Limpston, Cornerstones of Leadership, Chief Frank Leeb. It's a good-looking guy there.
I like that picture. It's yeah. I must say, I look young. I look young in that picture.
It's like a year ago, so you're younger than you.
Yeah, that's right. Remember, it's all about, right? So I talk a lot about the FDNY way and the East Farmingdale way, but as the back cover says, it's about your organization and your way, and whether it's for me, whether it's the FDNY way, whether it's the EFFD way, whether it's the Frank way, or whether it's any other way, right? That is, you can instill that to be part of you and your organization, on and off the fire ground, in and out of the fire service. It doesn't matter.
Be my way, Frank Sinatra.
That's right. Yeah.
You probably grew up. You probably went to Ebbetsville too, didn't you?
Oh, come on, man. I'm old, but I'm not that old, my brother. Yeah, thanks. Shots fired.
Oh, all right. Shea Stadium it was.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody take a moment, because Frank is a Mets and Jets fan. Just kind of. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's appreciated. That's appreciated. We did just get a win, but yeah, the Jets just is. Yeah.
Yeah. Who am I to talk? The Reds and
baseball season's been over for a long time.
All right. Well, I know you're a busy man. I appreciate you making the time for all my listeners and viewers. And once again, Chief Frank Leeb, FDNY, his new book. Go get it. It's on Amazon. Don't forget, once you read it, to actually write that little review for Amazon. That'll add up to more categories where you can say he's a bestseller and all that kind of cool stuff.
Yes, sir. And if you go on Facebook, tag Cornerstones of Leadership and make the post public, and I will share it and comment on it. And yeah, it's good stuff. Jim, I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate you, all you do. I mean, your conference that you put on is just fantastic. I mean, I've had the privilege to go there twice. Just what you and Nick are doing, just you're saving lives. Sometimes the moments that never happen matter the most. And my friend, what you guys are doing with your conference and with your show and all the things you're doing when you go and teach, you are making sure that many moments never happen, and our brothers and sisters are able to live a longer, healthier life, and enjoy all those bucket list things that they want to do later on in life. So I appreciate you. I truly appreciate you having me on this show. And most of all, Jim, I appreciate your friendship.
It's likewise, Frank. Believe me, I'm honored to be your friend. And yeah, I mean, through all the tough times, this guy was there for me, and I appreciate that, because that means a lot. Because I can only imagine how busy you are, but you always took time for me. I appreciate that. You're a good man.
Thank you, Jim. So are you. One family.
I'm okay. I have moments. Talk to my wife. She'll let you know. But he's Frank Leeb, and I'm Jim Burneka, and we are out of time. I'll get him next time whenever he writes the sequel.
Thanks, my brother.
He's like, I don't even think about that right now. All right. Take care, Frank.
You too, Jim. Thank you.